I think we're on. I think we're. I don't know. Are we on? Is the mic working? Is my camera working? I hope you guys are doing amazing. Today we're going to continue build our not so amazing project, and we're going to talk about CRUD, or at least attempt to talk about CRUD. And I'm going to show you. If you're just starting out, by the way, obviously the most important thing you can do is build projects scratch. And the reason why that's important is because oh, I was watching myself. That's kind of weird. But the reason why it's important because you have to practice building stuff from scratch. If you do a tutorial, it's not the same as putting that tutorial away and then working on something by yourself. And working on something by yourself, that's actually the most important thing you could do to develop the skill that will allow you to eventually get hired, or maybe you're already hired, which is congratulations to you. But if you're looking for ideas what to build, in my opinion, basically I recommend building 3 projects. The first one should showcase your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The second project, and again, this is my channel and I mostly do React, so like your second project would be building a simple React application which basically is able to connect API and get some data back or filter some data. It could be like a cocktail finder, whatever it is. And the third project, it's more of your cornerstone project. And this is kind of what we're building here, where you want to showcase some sort of authentication and showcase CRUD functionality, basically create, read, update, and delete. And you want to incorporate that into your application. You want to show the whole gamut that you understand as a front-end developer what you will be doing, which is basically working with a backend, and you're going to be creating a UI which will be adding or deleting data from the backend. And when you're starting out, I'm not saying you have to go full stack development, but there's many things you could use to quickly create a backend. And my favorite is Strapi because it's amazing. Number 2, it gives you an amazing UI, which makes it very easy to add data when you're just starting out. Maybe you don't even know how to do that from the front end yet. It makes it very easy. And more importantly, it allows you to start learning about backend, but in small baby steps. And what's awesome about Strapi, which maybe we'll see today, is that it is highly customizable, which will have you start writing backend code before being a full backend developer, which is amazing because this way you're going to be able to continue to learn about Node.js, about how to work with a backend, and eventually you'll be able to transition to full stack development. But let's take a look at what we have so far, and I'm gonna also definitely gonna look at the code, and let me know if you guys could hear me. Let me know in the comments what's going on. I don't expect these live streams to get tremendous amount of views because I don't really worry about that. The most important part for me is to continue to motivate you guys building your own projects, but more importantly for me to practice talking about my code that I'm writing. Because if I could talk about the code that I'm writing, or if I do get stuck, work on this live stream, working through the solution to get unstuck, I'm practicing the most important thing, which is being able to write code and be able to talk about it. And by the way, when you go to an interview, they might assign a project for you to build if you're lucky. Otherwise, you'll be stuck doing whiteboarding problems, whatever, different method of interviewing. But the project you build, you want to have the confidence to be able to talk about it no matter where you're looking at the code. And so let's showcase this new project that we're working. And we'll come back to the old project we were working before, but this is the new one that I started. And the basic idea, general idea here, is to create this place for people to manage teams, assign different projects to teams, manage tasks. So a lot of stuff, but obviously we're not building all this functionality right away. Because what we wanted to do is set the scope small to be able to keep it manageable, to make sure that we could create something, deploy something, and have something to show for it. Let me see if I could find my notes. Last time I couldn't find them, on where I designed the scope of the things that we want to accomplish right now. And today we're going to work about how to handle CRUD from the front end. Let's say you have a form and you want to make a post request to the back end to be able to add that information to your application. So we're going to see a simple example we're going to talk about in this application. Also, what we're going to do, just like, because this is a live stream, I hope you guys have some questions that you ask on the stream, because the most important thing I want to do is be able to help you guys out with answers and solutions. And by the way, I might not have all the answers, right? I might not have all the answers for sure, but what I want to do is I want to engage with you guys and be able to have fun on this live stream. So let's see here. I think I might have my notes here. 1 second. 1 second. I'll be able to push them on the screen before we jump in too much into it. Oh, what is happening here? Yeah, so let me pull my notes to the screen here so we could take a look at it here. So again, for the first iteration, first thing we did, I just quickly give you this in order to kind of set the perspective, then we'll start working. So when you're building application, and this is something I learned like really late, it's very important to do some sort of planning. It doesn't have to be like 1000% planning or super detailed, but you do want to have some sort of plan that helps you to get started. So the first thing I did is I decided what technology to start with. On the front end, we were working with React.js. For this particular application, we're going to do GraphQL later, but we are going to do REST API first. We're using style components in Tailwind. By the way, side note, if you're going to work with Tailwind in your project, just stick with CSS modules. This is the best way to kind of create a place for your Tailwind classes to live with the easiest way to do it. I decided to do style components, but I'll show you how to use Tailwind because I think it's a much cleaner approach. Style components is great too, but Tailwind and CSS module is definitely the way to go. For the backend, we're using Strapi 4. GraphQL we're going to come back to later. Right now, we're going to work everything on using REST requests. For our database, on our deployed application, we have Postgres. To manage our images, we have Cloudinary. And this is going to, you could deploy it on Heroku. And I have one of my applications deployed on Heroku, but I also just recently deployed my application at DigitalOcean, and I like the experience you have better, even though it is not free. So that's kind of, you got to make that toss up. Heroku, where you could kind of deploy everything for free. I mean, they like if you need to, but a lot of times if you spend a little bit more money, you do get better version. For instance, the availability, the snappiness of your application, because I believe in Heroku and their free account is every time you don't use your project for a while, that image get destroyed. So whenever you log in for the first time, it will literally spin up that image from the beginning. And sometimes it'll take some time. So whatever, doesn't matter. And then obviously talking about saving stuff to Git. And once we figured out what we're going to use, the most important part is to come up with the most important is your first feature. What do you really need for the most minimal viable product functionality ever? And so this stuff and grayed out, this is going to be eventually we're going to add, but I deleted it from this kind of first initial sprint, as you can call it, or a bunch of initial sprints, is that we don't want to do too much. The issue why trying to create this huge project that you want to build and adding so much features that eventually you'll never get them done and your project will never get finished. So the idea is to create these three functionalities in our initial sprint to have a minimal viable product and deploy it to DigitalOcean or what have you. And I talk in more detail. And if you guys ask questions, let me know in the chat if you even have questions. We could talk about it and go from there. But more importantly is that I want to make sure that you guys understand that trying to bite more than you could chew is the quickest way to lose focus on your project. So for this initial MVP, I decided we need to be able to sign up. We need to be able to log in, and we need to be able to show our teams and show our and basically do the full CRUD, basically create, read, update, and delete. I think that's very important. And once you kind of created, deleted things, updated things, and showed things, you could basically continue to add features to your application. And so eventually, I kind of said on the sign up, you should be able to create an account, add an avatar image, which I'll probably do later, add name, whatever. But I have a basic description of the things we want our app to do. So not to bore you, because I do want to get to some code and do some work. Next, we kind of talked about like data structure in terms of what we want in our database to be. And Strapi makes it like super easy, super convenient to set this up. And I'll quickly show you this. So let me talk about this first. So we have, for users, we want to have ID, first and last name, image, avatar, which I didn't add yet, job title, email, and password. And then a bunch of other things that natively come with Strapi. And for our team, we just want to have the team ID, name, description, and user relation. And we'll talk about that more in a second, but let me show you. I'm kind of writing this locally right now, but all of this stuff is also deployed, so you could play with it. But for development, I'm going to start here. And so this is basically what you get out of the box when you set up Strapi. You get this amazing UI and very easy way to, like, for instance, if I go to, because I know it's an endpoint, you'll be able to hit an endpoint. Hold on a second. It's not an admin. It's here. You'll be able to have access to these endpoints, which basically return the data that you want to access to be able to power your front-end application, which I think is really awesome with Strapi. It's amazing. So if you're just learning to code, it's a great way to set up an backend API really quickly that will allow you to customize it to your heart's and desire to make it a very complex application eventually. Also, I like using Strapi because it's open source. You can look at the code base. So I've been actually using it as a learning tool to learn how to be a better backend developer. And like I said, Strapi, here's the code from here's the code from Strapi. And don't worry if you don't understand it. We have our folder structure here. I'm just going to quickly zoom in a little bit here, where this stuff, like you look in the API, when we create our initial team content type, right? I created my initial content type for teams. This folder was automatically created in Strapi. And once you go here, you have your controllers, and it would have a placeholder controller, which would be blank. But you could see in my case, this controller is not blank, and it has code in it, and it's still JavaScript, right? So don't worry, don't freak out. I'm still kind of working through things here. But the cool thing about here is that the most important part is that you now have an avenue to customize and extend Strapi functionality with writing your own custom code or overriding the custom controller. So if you're trying to dive into backend development, but you want to have like a nicer way of doing it, right? You can do it with Strapi. I think this is super awesome to have that ability, and you don't have to use Strapi. I just love Strapi, and because like what I've been doing, by the way, I'll just show you differently here before I get too far away why I love Strapi, because I have the code base here, and you could also look up the code in under GitHub. But I love the structure they have. They have their API, teams, they have their controllers, routes, services. So what I actually did here is, let me bring it up here. For one of my projects, I don't know if I saved it on this computer. Probably didn't, but that's okay. I could go and pull it from GitHub. Let me switch to bigger screen first. Is that I actually started using Koa, which is built by the same people that made Express, to create my own backend. And maybe I won't like pull it to this computer, but I'll at least show you the code here. And again, the only reason I'm showing you is to show you why I like Strapi, because it is a good way to learn about backend while you don't really have to know anything about backend. And eventually, when you start making a transition to being able to I'm trying to find it, whatever. If I don't find it, I don't find recent. Like, I don't want recent activities. I want to see recent repositories. Koa. Yeah, I'll show you the code here. 1 second here. So, and then we'll get into the crux of things. And if you guys have questions, let me know about anything. If you guys have any suggestions, let me know. And again, I don't really care what people think or say about, like, oh, you're making mistakes, whatever. Because the point is, the only reason I do this live stream is to, number one, practice being able to get better at coding and talk about coding, but more importantly, to show you guys that you don't need to be an expert to get started. You just need to be out there building stuff from scratch and getting that practice in, rather than spending time on doing like bajillion tutorials. After 4 or 5 Udemy courses, you got to stop and you got to keep moving. But here's an example of where I've looked at, like Strapi, and I was like, oh, like I like how they set stuff up here. And so I'm following kind of their patterns, having a config folder, like controller folder, models folder. And I am learning from Strapi, literally learning how to write my own backend because I have them as an example to be able to kind of take a look at. But enough about that. Let's get to the important part, talking about our application. So basically, currently the state of our application, we were able to set up our login page. So you could, go log in. Once you log in, you're able to, and it's broken. No, it's not. Okay. And once you log in, you have this basic page where you have our teams, we have our users. The users are currently hard-coded, by teams we are already starting to pull from our backend. So if I go to my content manager in Strapi, you could see that we have our teams. I could create a new team, just did it. And then I could associate the user with it, who's the team owner, click save. And now when we go back to our React application, I didn't publish it. Very important to make sure you click the publish button. And once you create that team, if I refresh here, notice we have our new team, the new team that I just did. I'm the user, Paul Berslavsky. So in today's lesson, what we're going to work on is talking about how to actually use this beautiful create team form to be able to create our team here via our front end. So I love that about Strapi is that, yeah, let me share my GitHub for you guys. And I actually have the links to these projects as well. I'll actually post them. Give me a minute here. GitHub, and let's see, this is Strapi for front end. I believe that's the one here. I'll post it in the comments here. And hello, Jonah. Hello, Tammy. Great to see you guys. And North Jim, what's up? Good to see you. And we're gonna keep at it. But basically, you see, we're able to add data and at least have a way to have an API that we could use to create more of these complex application. And I think for your cornerstone project, it's very important to have something that has some simple version of authentication and some CRUD functionality outside of being a to-do app. But if you think about most application, at least from the front end standpoint of things, it's literally a glorified to-do application, because you could either add things, delete things, update things. You know what I mean? It's that, I don't want to say it's that simple, but that's the basic gist of it. So now we're going to take a look at this form. And currently, this form, when you enter stuff, hello, nothing happens. And if you were here last week, we talked about how to, create a simple login form. And I talked about that from the front standpoint. But now we're going to work on basically creating and passing data and making it post to our database. Engine boy, that's awesome. Start building a bug tracker. Listen, let me tell you, and don't look up, hey all, what's up? Let me tell you, like, I talked to Luke. I don't know if you guys saw that episode. And I was blown away when he was showing me his code that he wrote, not from the tutorial, but from the fact that he did it from scratch. I was amazed how well he was able to talk about it. And if you ask me from my personal experience, I have a bunch of projects in my portfolio. Excuse me, guys. And I could show you the code, like a project from a Udemy course I did. I probably could kind of talk about, but I might forget what certain things do. But believe me when I tell you, when you write your own code from scratch for your own personal project, you don't forget, because you've made so many mistakes that by the time you learn what you needed to learn, it's amazing. So currently, what we want to do is we want to create it's so funny, because to me, like bug tracker, team tracker, it's like the same thing. They all do the same thing, at least in my mind. Manage projects, right? But that's near here or there. But I'm decided to call project team tracker because like bug tracker, Code Foundry came up with the idea. I think it's an amazing idea. I want to give, it's their baby, and I don't want to do another bug tracker because they're already doing a great job talking about it, But we're gonna do a team tracker, and so here's our application that we logged in, and we're pulling data from our front end. And let me show you the code. This is our backend code. We don't have to worry about it. And so let me quickly show you where we at first. And if you have any questions about the code, guys, this is why I do the live streams, to help to answer any questions you guys may have, so I could help you guys understand something in the best way that I could help you. You could delete this for now. We don't need this for now. We'll talk about that later. But the point is I want to create an environment where you guys feel comfortable asking questions, and I'm definitely not going to judge you guys, because good knows how many people judge me, but I don't care. I'm going to continue to make these videos because the most important thing that I could tell you guys, and I said bajillion times, is that you need to build stuff from scratch, and you have to get past that fear of people judging you, because the more you build something, at the beginning it's going to be complete garbage, 100% true, and then eventually things get better and better and better, and then you kind of start knowing what you're talking about. And what's cool about, like, when you build the application yourself, like in this scenario that I'm doing, you know everything about the code and that what you're doing. So if you have any questions about anything, let me know. But for now, here's our code for this pop-up here. When this pop-up opens up, this is the form that you guys see. This is the code for it. And so this is not the, let me move this to a different screen, because this is the back end. We're talking about the front end here. So this is that form here. So we have, I call it create team form. We have a way to store the data that people enter into the form, and if there's errors, we have it set to state. When somebody does something in the input, we listen to the input change, and we basically save that information to our state. So here's our input number 1, and I'm not going too much detail. Text here number 2. So all you need to know is when we type some stuff here, all this gets saved to state, and we're able to submit the form. So when I hit submit form, right now it's just printing the data to us, but it's not really showing anything, and it's not updating the data. Like if I go here to my backend and refresh, and let me just delete all this stuff that we don't need. When I refresh, look, it's not showing the data. So our goal today is, from the front end, is to make data be written to our database via post requests. And more importantly, the pattern that we use here is the same pattern you guys are going to use regardless, what backend you guys have. We're just going to be using fetch, and we're going to be making a post request. And Strapi, by the way, allows you guys to have either authorized request or public request where anybody could do it. So right now, if I go to settings here under roles, I'm going to go to public, and I'm going to make sure for teams, out of the box, you would not be able to do anything because they want to keep your API secure. But for public, without authentication, we want to, for now, we're just going to say should be able to create a post. Now, this is not secure. You don't want just anybody to create a form. Like add a database, not a database, add our data, or again, I guess it'll be to a database, or our team in our case, unless they're logged in, right? Why would you want an authorized user to do it? But for brevity of the example, we're going to show you this. And it kind of shows you here for create, this is the API endpoint we hit. And so we're going to basically right now allow any Tom, Ben, and Jerry to be able to add data. And then we'll show you how to use with authorization. And what's cool is whenever you're working with REST API, if you guys don't know, I'm sure you guys know, you could use something like Postman to test your request. So what I'm going to do is start Postman here. you know. And let's see here. Let me open Postman. And by the way, guys, don't be shy. I love the chat in the comments, because to me that's the most important thing is you guys chatting, but definitely don't be shy asking questions about anything. So basically, we know we have an endpoint right here. It'd be our local host 1337 here. I'll show you what it is. I'm going to actually copy it and paste it here. Oh, copy and paste it here. I'm going to copy this. I'm lazy. Copy and paste. Control copy. So right now this is doing a GET request, but we want to make a POST request to this endpoint. This is the yeah, that doesn't zoom in, but I'll show you guys in a second. So let me go to Postman here. Delete this. Don't worry about it. We're not doing registered user. Actually, I'm going to make a new one. I've been doing so much GraphQL lately that, and it's so much nicer with their setup environment that like I haven't used Postman in forever. So we're going to basically, you guys are going to have to bear with me here. No auth, Strapi 4, that's fine. I just wanna show. Okay, I'll just do this, right? Whatever, it's fine. We want to make a post request. We know this is our endpoint. Then you have this ability to add headers. Was it what do we want? Content type, right? And we want it to be, I don't remember, was it JSON, application JSON. And in the body, we want to pass our, let me make this smaller. And if Postgres doesn't make any sense to you, yeah, I should probably try Thunder Client. Don't look up. There's another one I saw. I hate Postman. I really hate it. I don't really like using it. But I just want to like put you guys to the same suffering that I have. And then we basically in the body, we want to add our data here. And if you look at, and this is our JSON data. And if you look at our backend here, in our teams, the basic information that we need, I'm just showing you guys, the basic information we need a team name and team description. So if I go to my Postman here, just to test my API to make sure that it works, I could do team name, hello, and then what do we got? Team description. World. And I'm only doing this, like you don't have to do this, but it's nice to have Postman when you're working with an API, easily be able to test your requests before you do them. So if I hit send, notice I get missing data payload. Okay, I lied to you guys. It's actually going to be like this. Based on the documentation, this is what it expects. Is there beautify? Let's try again, send. Perfect, and it worked. Now, as you could see, we get a request back of the data that we just created. We just created a team called hello description world. And if you guys don't believe me, you guys can go to your Strapi instance here that I have like bajillion open. Let me close some of them. And let me go to my content teams. And notice how we have hello world. We have our new team. And if I wanted to create another team, and what's cool about Postman is that now we know the structure of the request that we want to send, and we know that it works. So now at least we know that the API works. Some stuff. And that's awesome. Like if I click send again, that works. I go to check in my backend on the teams, and notice we have team news, some stuff. And so at least when I'm going to be working on the front end, I don't have to worry that, oh no, something's wrong with my API. It's because we already tested it. We know that it works. We know that it's working. And so that's a great start. So before you even try to send data from your front end, make sure you have a working API. And Postman, when you're doing with REST, or GraphQl, when you're working with GraphQL APIs, is one of the best ways to kind of do that sanity check. I mean, I'm sure there's others, but just for you guys, we now know. So if I make any mistake in or something doesn't work, I know it's not my API. Believe it or not, like if you don't test your API first and you try to figure out from the front end what's going on, and maybe you're not missing all the error like responses or whatever, you're like, what is happening? So now that we know that our API works, we could go into our code here. And so in our code, we have this place handle submit, and this is where we want to write our data that we're going to send. And we're going to use, and I love how I'm using, whatchamacallit, GitHub Copilot, Jesus Christ, and it's recommending some stuff based on the code that I wrote. This is not what we're going to do here, but we're going to just use a very simple fetch. We're going to use fetch, which is comes pre-built already. Like I know some people love Axios. I love Axios, but I'd like to show stuff with the most basic things for us to be able to get stuff done and working. So we're going to just use fetch, and we're going to set up really easily. And we're already checking if our form has errors. So if our form doesn't have errors, run this code here. So that's where we're going to do our logic. So what we're going to do, we're going to do const response just so we could see what the response is. And we're going to await for fetch. And for fetch, it's going to take 2 parameters. The first parameter is going to take our URL. And let's see, do I have my URL here somewhere? Team URL. It's going to be team URL. We'll see where it's at. I'll show you where it is. And then the second is going to be our settings. And we're going to do method post. Our header is going to be content type application JSON. But we're not going to do authorized first, but I'll show you how to do an authorized request. And for our body, here we're going to take and stringify our data from our form, which is basically everything that we get saved to our form. And which is basically currently in our form, we have 2 fields, input for our name, for the team name, and then input for the team description. So those are the 2 things we're going to do. So what are we doing is when we making this request, we're making a post request, content type application JSON, and we're passing our data in the form of JSON. And by the way, why do I know this? Let's not be in shock, is because we went and we just tested this in Postman, right? If you look at here, we sent our come on, headers. Yep, we're not doing that. We did our content type, which is application JSON, which is what we're setting here. We set that it's a post request right here. See, you have all these different requests. We set it to post request, and then we also set our data as JSON format here, what it expects. So we already did all of this in Postman, and so I know that it works. The only thing we're missing is our team URL, and let me just do a const here. We'll figure out where to put that later, but for now I'm going to stick it in here just for the example here. And localhost not 4000. See, GitHub Copilot, you're not guessing my mind correctly. It's localhost 1337, so I believe. So now we basically going to take our data from our form. We have the URL that we want. We have the options that we're passing into our request. And I'll answer your question in just a second, Tammy. So, and basically we get the data from our input right here, form data, and we put it in the body of our request. And what we want to do is we want to do a response JSON data whatever, await response.json. And what this is going to give back to us is going to give back a response. So if there's any errors, we'll be able to see the errors. And if there's no errors, we should at least return, just like we saw in Postman, we should return the data of the items that were created. So that's, pretty much all we need in the most basic sense here. And so let's kind of reiterate. We have our function called handle submit, and it gets fired whenever someone hits our submit button. It will fire the handle submit function. Our handle submit function is going to check if we have errors using our form validation function that we wrote a while ago, but we're not going to worry about for this. But basically, we check if there are errors, and if there's no errors, let's run this code here. Let's go ahead and make something happen. And so that's what we're doing. We're just using straight up fetch. We're using async and await. And usually when you use async and await, one of the things you want to do is put things into try and catch block. And the reason why you want to do that is because, I guess, catch. And in case you have an error, you want to go ahead and do something with the error. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this logic here, and I'm going to post it inside the catch block. And then you also have finally, which will basically run regardless. So some people don't put finally because you could just put it, your code logic underneath, because it's going to hit it anyway. But some people like to use finally. So I'm just going to make an alert, which will basically say data sent or something like that. And so let's take a look at this example before we try it. So the first thing we did is we have a function for handle submit, and we have our try catch block. We put our logic in the try, so whenever there's an errors, we could catch it here in our catch block, and then we could write some logic here to handle those errors. Like for instance, I think I have set error, like form error, and I could set, like add the, come on, GitHub Copilot, you're not recommending things that you want. What we want to set, maybe, dump an object which has a message and some error occurred, right? And it's going to set it to state, whatever it is. So you could do whatever logic for handling errors in your catch. So let me come back here quickly, answer some questions before we test this out, and then think about and take a look how to make an authorized request whenever you are logged in user and you need to pass authorized token here. So let me look at the comments here. Paul, please clarify once to get the repos and Tailwind and React router stuff set up. Assignment 1, assignment 2. Can I start coding with what you're doing this Tuesday night streams? Great question. So for those of you who are wondering what assignment she's talking about, is I have a community that I'm building on pre-alpha. And right now, the only way to join it is if you email me at codingafter@gmail.com, and you have to send me either your LinkedIn profile or your GitHub profile or both. If you don't have a GitHub with projects you've been working on, or even like a portfolio of some projects you made, like I'm not going to let you join the community because I really want it to be for people that are actively working on stuff and actually took the initiative to doing stuff. But eventually this community will be open to the public. I just don't spend a lot of time on it. And so it's like in pre-alpha, but we are giving homework assignments there. And the assignments are assigned there. We're building similar project to this one. Now, to answer your question, Tammy, the code that I'm writing here, notice how it's in pieces. It's talking about certain parts. In this case, we're talking about how to make a post request. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is like, I don't want you to copy my code. I just want you to get big picture lessons from these lessons, and I want you to build the stuff on your own. But by the way, when I have more time in the community, I'm going to make specific lesson videos that are going to live on that community on their lessons page. That will be basically 3-minute short versions of pretty much what I do on the live stream, except they're going to be talking more specifically, not in general, but specific to that application we're doing. Yep, that was try catch for error handling. Alex says, "What's up, everyone? What's up, Alex?" Yeah, this project will slowly move at a faster pace because I work on it like a little bit every week, but like I'm doing it so much like you don't need to know about everything that I did. We're literally just talking about how to use fetch to make a post request. So the way I started to think about these projects, every time I talk about this project, I'm going to basically have a little lesson. Like in today's lesson, we're talking about create or making a post request, and I'm showing you the context of this application. So if you know nothing, at least about what we did on this application, it's almost irrelevant because today you're just seeing how would someone make a fetch request, right? And that way you have a starting point. But yeah, for assignments that I assign, and I'll probably maybe I'll share the assignments publicly just so you could see what we're doing. But assignments, you have to go in steps. You got to go 1, 2, 3. So if you don't complete 1, don't even bother doing 2. If you don't complete 2, don't even bother doing 3. And for you to answer your question, can you start coding stuff on your own? You can, but there will be a very specific assignment that will tell you what to do, and you would have to basically do that. So I'm working on assignment 3 and 4, and I'll post those later when they're available. Yeah, and anyway, let's come back to this. So now we have our handle submit for. Damn it, make it smaller. That's not what I wanted. What are you doing? Close. Anyway, so we have our here. Computer, can I just like do this, highlight it without issues? So we have our handle submit code here. And again, we're preventing the default functionality of what happens when you submit the form, so it doesn't refresh the screen. We're checking if our form has errors. We're saving here for the point here and the endpoint where we want to make our fetch request. We have an if block. If we don't have any errors, we have a try catch block. Let's try this fetch request where basically we are calling the fetch, which is built in, and we are passing our URL. I could have just posted the URL here for no confusion. And we're passing the config options that fetch expects, the method, the header, and the body, which basically takes our data, change it to JSON stringified format, and remaking that request. We are waiting back for the response of our data. And once we get back the response, for now, we're just going to console log it. And in that response, if we have errors, we could also see some errors, and we could do stuff accordingly. So with that being said, let's go to our front end here that already broke before I even broke it. And it's broke because I have somewhere create team form has some or something here. Damn it, has an extra bracket. I hate when that happens because it's hard to tell where those brackets are at. I'm assuming it's here. I'm going to guess. It was there. So I comment stuff out just to make things less confusing. So if we come back to our application, refresh, good, our application works. And what we're doing now, we're going to use this form. Our form takes in test team create, that's a name, and this is test. What I'm also going to open up is I'm going to open up the inspector, and I'm going to take a look at our network tab. And so when I click submit, we should have something happens here. So it didn't work. And if you watch this channel, when do you ever expect something working from the first try? And the reason why I have this channel is because I want to show you that things won't work from beginning and things will break. And so it's up to us to kind of understand that it's fine to get stuck. It's not an issue when we don't know what we're doing and get stuck. That's part of your learning journey. But going into a tutorial and being in tutorial hell is not the way you solve it. You solve it by getting stuck, making these mistakes in your personal project you're building from scratch, and then you go and you troubleshoot. That troubleshooting is a big part of what it takes to become a better developer, and that's something that's expected of you to do at work, so might as well practice on your live projects. By the way, if you are enjoying this stream and you haven't smashed the like button, it's okay. I don't blame you. But if you do like to smash the like button, not for me, but for all the awesome people in the chat here. Go ahead and do that. So let's take a look here. So that we're sending the right, well, no, we're not sending the right data. And it's the same issue we had when we made the request in post. So let's take a look at the response. There is no response. Bad request. But the reason why it's bad request is because we're not sending the proper JSON format that our API expects. Our API expects, and we know this because we tested it here in Postman. This is another reason why I tell you, test your API in Postman first to make sure that works. It expects data object to be sent. So it's an easy fix for us. So we go to our code base here, and we do this, data equals form data. And that will be basically what the object expects. And I'll show you that in a second. So let's go back to our front end again. Let's delete this. Now test team create. This is a test. Click submit. Okay. I refresh this. Okay, hit submit. And now we get a status 200. It worked. That is fantastic. And if you look at our response, we see that we sent exactly what we needed. Data with our team name, our description, and we got a response back, or at least we should have. Not sure why I can't see it here, but we should have gotten the response, which we'll check in just a second. But before we do that, to make sure that everything worked, because we're using Strapi, which has this amazing UI that we don't have to build from scratch, we have an easy way to set up an API. I could easily check, right? And check this out. We created our team. This is actually living in the backend of our application. And if you look at teams, here's the one that we created. Look, I'm going to delete all these just to show you that we're getting data live from our API, that I'm not tricking you or lying to you guys. Hey, Cody, what's up? Good to see you. Cancel. Yes, we'll work stuff out. Oh, I just added another team, but let me refresh this. Okay, so look, we have one team here. Create team, and we'll talk about how to refresh the screen in a second, because notice right now it's not really doing what it's doing what we want. It's adding data, but in terms of user experience, it's not doing what we were supposed to do. So I click submit. For instance, we're just getting data sent. We know it works. If I look at console log, this is a different error from a different part, which don't worry about it. That's a bug that I have to fix one day. But yes, we get our response, and our response is basically from the API of data that created. So now we could basically be like, good, if you have a response, the data was sent, we could close this window and refresh this data, which is interesting because this is living in a different place of our application. So how are we going to let that part of the application know that we just added new data for it to know how to refresh? And we could use context API, maybe one way. Maybe we could use some sort of custom hook that we're sharing between two different places. But we'll get there when we get there. Today's lesson is about creating a post request and making it post data. But for now, at least let's in our application do this. If and for now, like we do it like super easy here. We just finally, instead of say data sent, we're going to, I think it's called set open to false. And basically what this will do, it will close our modal. Let me set open. Yep. And so if we go back again in most general way, let me close this. We don't need this. Create team. New team name. Another team. I click submit. And again, we have to handle this bug. It's not a bug. We just didn't implement it. How to refresh to make sure that we get updated data, which we'll do that later. But here's our new team that we created, which is fantastic. We also have to talk about how to set the user. Now with Strapi 4, they changed how they handle relationships, so it's a little bit different. There's going to be some backend stuff that we have to do, I believe, but we'll do that next at another lesson. For now, take it slow, easy steps, one foot after the other. That's what we're doing. So we look at our content manager. we have our data here in our API. You guys, like, this is amazing. Like, I have a full stack application where I'm doing 80% development on the front end and using Power of Strapi to take me the rest of the way and create this a full stack application. What I like about this allows you to make complex applications with your front end experience, but make it look like you're a full stack developer. And that way, when you have a project in your portfolio, it's like, oh, you have login. I could log into your application and it works. Wow, that's amazing. Oh my God, you have this create team button. Oh, I could add a team and that team's gonna show up in your app. Oh my God, wow, you really understand. Well, I'm kind of overstating things, but this idea here, it's like you should, in my mind, as a junior developer, not saying create a backend from scratch. This is why I keep talking about Strapi, because it makes it very easy, but you need to create at least one of your application, which is going to be your cornerstone application that will be your main portfolio project to help you get hired at your job, is something that, and notice how, I just noticed that it's working. The count for teams, 1, 2, 3, 4, is the same as the teams that I have. I bet if I add another team here, it's going to be 5. Look, 5. Okay, I don't know why I got excited about that. Super simple things get me excited, all right? So, but the point that I'm saying, having a project which showcases that you understand authentication, and we're about to go to the next part of the lesson, which will be very easy when I show you, is how to send an authenticated request. That means you need a token from a backend for it to work. If you don't have a token, it's going to give you an error, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. But you basically need to have basic understanding authentication and CRUD functionality, create, read, update, delete, and all the HTTP methods, CRUD map to HTTP requests, right? And I'll kind of show you quickly. So I keep talking about CRUD, create, read, update, delete is, come on, scroll down faster. Okay, so for create, you could use post or put. We're going to use post most time. For read to get data. You make a get request. To update, you could use put, patch, and post. Most of the time, you just use put. And for delete, you use delete. So CRUD, create, read, update, delete. Now you could see what HTTP methods it works. It's not difficult to deploy project with Strapi. I just recently made a video how to deploy Strapi for to digital ocean. The only reason this is gonna come up and search here right now, I believe, or not, yep, right here, is because my computer knows the IP I'm using. But I just created this video. You could check it out, how to deploy Strapi to DigitalOcean. And it'll walk you through the steps. They're very easy. And I'm going to make a similar video how to do it on Heroku. Heroku, if you want a completely free option, you're able to get away. DigitalOcean, they do give you $100, but you still need to put your card on file or make an initial payment of like $5 or something to get started. So there is a paywall that goes into it. So DigitalOcean, though, I like a lot better than Heroku because, like, I mean, they're both good, but the user experience in DigitalOcean is just a little bit easier because it's not as cluttered as Heroku. I like both. So I have 2 different applications deployed on DigitalOcean, and then I have application deployed on Heroku. So both are good, and I'll make a Heroku video soon. So now that we know that we're able to make requests, request to our application, but how do you make it authorized? For instance, I'm going to go to my backend here. Come on. I'm going to go to my backend. No, this is my front end. Go to my backend here. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to break everything. I'm going to go to roles, and we have public. And this is something that Strapi allows you to do. Like when you're just starting out, like especially for backend, like if you go full stack, you don't even know how to set up roles and permissions. I love Strapi does that out of the box. So for permissions, I'm just going to say you cannot create a team unless you're authorized user. So I'm going to click save. And so notice what before was working now is going to break. So if I go and first we'll test our API in Postman, I go to my body here and I click send. Notice we get an error. We get data null. We don't get anything back. And we get an error that says 403, you are forbidden. You're not able to make that request. Okay, so that means we need to give permission for authorized users to be able to make that request. So in Strapi 4, we go to roles, we go to authenticated, we go to teams, and we want to click create for user to be able to create a team. They need to be authenticated. That means they need to have the API key from the backend. So I'm going to save here. Let's go back to Postman and see what's up. I'm going to send again. It's still forbidden. Why? Because we're not passing a authorization token. So what I could go here in my headers or authorization, yeah, you go to bearer token, and then we want to put a token in here. How do we get the token? Well, you get the token from your application when you log in. So let me go ahead here. I'm going to log out. We set this up in a couple of streams ago. If you guys have questions about it, we will. I don't think Strapi's eating jobs with Backend Fresher, guys, but it's definitely has its place. Let me tell you, I got hired by this company that did most of their development was done in Python. But they had this new idea for an application, and they could not take away any of their Python developers to build a backend. And me, as a JavaScript developer, especially on the front end, I said, look, for a minimal viable product to proof of concept, or if you decide to go all the way fully, Strapi is very customizable. So they hired me under this idea that I could both do the front end and the back end work. And that's exactly what I did. And being by myself, I was able to take the application from nothing to proof of concept that allowed the investors to be like, hey, this is actually something we want to put more money into it. And they hired more developers, and I have more people helping me on the project. And it happened because me, as a one-person team, I was able to leverage Strapi and my ability and knowledge of front end to create an application with less people. So I think that's one of the benefits of it outside being highly customizable. But anyway, and so once I log in here, I'm going to go to inspect, because what I'm doing is I'm storing, and again, this errors are from something else. Don't worry about it. That's my answer to everything. We actually have some information that's being stored here. Actually, let me just show you here. I'm going to log out again. Notice we have empty local storage. I log in. So what happens when I log in, we get some basic information from the application. And I'm saving all that data to local storage. And we have here under team data, we have our token. So this is our authorized token. This is what our API expects you to have to allow you to make authorized requests. So first, let's take in Postman, and then we'll backpedal and figure out how to do it in our front-end application. So here, I'm going to add my token. So what I did in Postman, under authorizations, I clicked use bearer token. I put my token, and we're going to go to our body. Everything stays the same. I'm just going to say with auth and see if it works. Maybe it won't work. Send. No, it worked. What do you know? When you pass a valid token, it works. And to show you that if I don't have a valid token, it doesn't work, I'm going to show you. So look, we just posted that data. I'm going to show it in our backend here. Teams. And with auth. This one I just added. Team new with auth. So now we have this concept of making authorized requests, which is amazing. You could make an application where you have something for public users and you have something for authorized users. You could also do more in-depth roles, like this is an admin user, this is like whatever user. But for now, authorized, non-authorized, that's perfectly fine. And so let's go back to our Postman just to show you. If I go to the authorization and I, let's say, delete the token, or even better, I make the token wrong by putting random characters in there, and I try to make that same request, what do you behold and know? We get not authorized, missing valid credentials. So we know now that we are able to pass a token and make our requests work. Okay, we're getting closer. This is amazing. So now let's handle it on the front end. And because we already did it in Postman, we know that it's going to work. It's going to make it very easy for us to set it up in our application. So let's go to the code. We already have this example. So the only thing we have to do is do authorization. I can never type authorization. And we're going to do bear token. And look, GitHub Copilot says, hey, you should probably get that from local storage, but we'll get there in a second. For now, I'm just going to hard code it here, which is you never do. You know, this is stupid, but I'm going to do it just because we're making stuff in increment steps. So now we're going to fire our fetch request with our authorization token. So we go to our application, and I'm going to go to network. And again, if you guys have questions about anything, I'm here for you guys. And I'm going to refresh this, and let's create a new, let me delete this again, create a new team. Auth team created from front end. So let's see if this request works. We hit submit. What do you know? That request did work. Here we go. We have that request. So we know that this is the correct place for us to pass our token, but we don't want to hard code our token. That token is available in local storage. Now, if you don't set up contacts, and if you're using local storage, sometimes you could just get stuff from local storage. So I'm going to use that as an example. So I'm going to make a const here, token, maybe spell const right. And that token is going to come from local storage. This is not where it lives, but let's look it up exactly what I named it. Application. It lives under Teams app data. If you guys have questions getting stuck anywhere, let me know. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to watch. I mean, I'm working tomorrow too, so I'm going to like come and go and check it out, but definitely want to check it out. So where was I? Back to our code. So we want to get items from here. We also want to make sure that because it's going to return JSON, so we want to JSON parse, I believe. And so let's console log token just to check that we're getting the right data here. I put it in the submit. That's kind of silly. Let's save that token outside of the form. Let's save it on the top here somewhere. But we're going to console log token here just so we could see it. Uncut error, blah, 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 blah. So this is a different error. Why is my console log not working? That's like annoying as hell. Oh, because my console log is also inside the where it's not supposed to be at the moment. It's supposed to be there, but I just wanna showcase that we have access to local storage and be able to get there. So we have all the data from local storage. What we want is the token, and because we return an object, we could actually not save it to the variable, but destructure it from what we already have there. So now we should have access to our token. So notice this is now our token here. And now what we could do is where we need the token, we could set this up to be stream cheese strings, right? What do you call those? String literals, you know? And now what we're able to do in our string literals to pass our token. So now whenever we logged in, whatever token is saved to our local storage, we'll be able to get it and use it for our authorization. I also have it saved to contacts. Do I have to do it? It's overkill. I don't know. But for now, we're just going to do the simplest way. This is what most people do. They just pull it out of local storage because that's where most people save the tokens. So now when we go back here, reset, go to our network tab, reset here, and let's do a final test. So we're going to do final test auth post request from front end. Submit, and boom, no complaints, no nothing. And if you look here, we were able to send our data. If you look at our header, all this other data that we have, you see that we're passing our authorization token just like we want. And if we, more importantly, look at our data, here we go, final test. This is what we recently did. Next time, not today, because there's some additional stuff that we have to do, and we're most likely going to do it on the back end, and I'll save it for next lesson. But we'll learn how to create an association for the user that created this post, but we're going to handle that on the back end rather than the front end. And the reason why we want to handle it on the back end, because you don't want someone from the front end to send a request and say they're Joe something and not be the user that made that initial request. So we're going to set up on the back end. We're going to say, hey, if the logged in user is Paul Braslavsky, let's make him the owner of this post, but we're not going to set it in the front end of our application. But we're going to set it in the back end. So let's quickly review the code. We're going to review the code, and then we're going to open up for questions. And if you want anything about React or any questions about what we did today, let me guys know. And there's obviously other things that we got to do, which we'll do later, like how to, maybe next stream, what we're going to do, we're going to figure out how to get our application refresh the data after the fact, or do we not refresh the data, or do we just inject it to the local state and only make additional API calls when people refresh the page? Whatever, we'll figure this out. I'm getting too ahead of myself right now, but let's review the code. So we have our form, and the most important part that we want to focus on right now on this form here is this handle submit function. So the first thing we do, we have prevent default, which basically prevents default functionality or behavior when you click the submit button on the form, which will fire, like if you're doing forms in HTML, where's my form? It will have like action, and then you put the action, and then it has method, you set the method. It will look for those first, which will cause a refresh or go into that page. So you do prevent default to stop the page from refreshing and submit, because we're not using those methods. We're using JavaScript here. Then we check if we have errors in a form. If there's no errors and the data is correct, let's save that data. So we're putting it into our try and catch to make sure that if we do have an error, we will eventually write some error handling. And then inside our try block, we're just using fetch. We're making a fetch request. We're making a post call to our URL, which is the endpoint that we're trying to connect. We're sending our options where we get to decide the method, the headers, including our authorization and our token, and we're setting our data to JSON format to be able to make that request. And then when everything succeeds, right now we're just getting the data back, but we could do some additional stuff here, like if there's an error, handle error, and if there's no error, refresh the previous screen to show the updated data, which we'll do next time. But for now, that's what we did. This is working pretty amazingly. And so today we learned about how to make authorized requests in our application with fetch. And so
looking at our plan here, and this is why I'm telling you guys, don't try to do too many features. Plan out your app in the most basic steps that you need to make it work and do something, and then deploy it before you add additional features. So if we look here, for this application, my intention is basically, my internet's super slow where I live right now. I'm visiting my parents. Can't wait to go home where my internet is super fast. But basically, first thing I did is I planned out, right? I planned out the tech that I'm going to be using. Next, I decided what is the functionality I need for my initial MVP. And also I have a bunch of this graded out because I wanted to add this to the minimum viable product, but I was like, it's going to be too much already. No. So what I want to be able to sign up. Sign up, we still have to work on. Maybe we'll do that at some point. We're definitely going to do it at some point, but I'm just saying. But we have login and logout feature works, right? So if I go to my application, I'm able to log out. I'm able to log in. So that's amazing. So what else we have left? We have a lot left, but for now, so now we have to get full CRUD functionality with teams. So today we worked on creating a team. So if it's done, I'm going to change it to green. Actually, this is a good idea. I'm going to change all the things that are someone done to, I'm going to change them to green, so you can see it easier. All the features that are done, I'm going to change for green. So now what we have left delete a team, update a team, read, we already able to see the team, so that's done as well. And so notice how I created basic features, and I'm going to work through those features until they're completely done. And I am going to only move on or make the plan for the next steps once all of this is complete. But before I even get into this, because this is, I should move this away because this is from like this is going to be our next sprint, right? That's going to be our next sprint. We're not going to worry about this right now. This is going to be at some time in the future. But once all of these are green, then I'm going to figure out what the next step. And once all of these are green, I'm going to deploy the application. And so the idea is when someone, once all of this is done, someone will be able to go to my DigitalOcean deployed application, or I'll actually show you the deployed versions of this. Obviously, they're not going to have these changes, but I use Netlify to deploy my front end. I love Netlify. So my front end, and I'll look at AFX crash question in just a second. I never used Supabase yet, but we could take a look at it. And also, AFX crash, you could email me at codingafter30@gmail.com and send me a reminder because I'd love to help you solve this. But we'll try a little bit on the stream today. So this is the application that's already deployed. So this is already live. Obviously, it doesn't have the newest changes, but this is awesome because people could already go to my application at this link, and I'll share it with you guys. And you could see it in action. Obviously, it doesn't have, and I think you're able to log in as test user. And right now, the create team is not working because I didn't push those changes. But once I make the updates, eventually I'll push those changes. But you could go ahead and see this application works. And also, that's not the right one because I have to re-upload DigitalOcean control panel. And then I have the front end for Strapi 4 deployed on DigitalOcean. Is it this account? I don't remember which account. No, it's this account. Sign in with the GitHub. Deployed on DigitalOcean, and my Strapi 3 application, the Dev Hunt, that those of you guys who followed me before, it's using Strapi 3. It's deployed in Heroku. And the reason I did it this way, because I know a lot of times people ask me questions about Heroku. So I want to know what the hell I'm doing on Heroku. And then sometimes people ask me questions about DigitalOcean or other things. So at least let me know how to deploy stuff on DigitalOcean. So now you see I have this project deployed on DigitalOcean. So not only are my projects, I was going to say living in my imagination, they're not. They're actually living in reality by living online. So anybody could go and see them. Like for instance, live. This is the live application side for my backend. It's deployed. and I could log in. I think this, I'm the user. I don't remember which password I use now. It's maybe use coding after 30. I don't remember. But the point is, I could log in. Everything is deployed. And so I have an app that's not living in my imagination. It is deployed backend and frontend. And every time I add those features, they get into my master branch. They get redeployed into my production application. So I'm able to continue add features on an application that's already live, and I could already show and get users to test it if I need to. So I quickly wanted to share with you guys how I have my backend on DigitalOcean, and I have my front end deployed on what do you call this, Netlify. And the old project you guys could find, and we'll come back to this. There's a reason that I moved on from the old project is because it was done in Strapi 3. And what I wanted to do is to make sure that I work with Strapi 4 and then figure out how to take a Strapi 3 application and update it to use Strapi 4. It's not as clear cut, but this is the last application that we worked on, certain features to see you need to be logged in. And again, if you're thinking UI here looks not as good as the current application, that's because I didn't really care about the UI here, and I don't remember any of the users. I think a coding after 30 is a user to log in. But what I was going to say, the reason why, yep, I logged in. And so if I could go to a particular project and we're able to leave messages here, we're able to see the bugs that this application has. So I took a break on this one. I'll come back to this one at some point. But again, this is in Strapi 3. Instead of building the same thing in Strapi 4, I decided to build something new. And then I decided to, once Strapi 4 documentation comes out to show how to go from Strapi 3 to Strapi 4, I'm going to convert this to Strapi 3. Or maybe keep it Strapi 3 because there's a lot of people that's still using Strapi 3. And if they have questions about it, I could use this application to answer their questions. But the reason why this one, I mean, it doesn't look that bad, but the reason why this one is just super killer because, listen, when you build an application, there's so much stuff you have to do. If you already build a basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript project, like I have one on, actually, this is the one I built. See, I could use my own application to show my own project. So I already have a simple HTML, CSS, and JavaScript where I wrote the CSS myself. And I also have a React application where I wrote the code myself. So for your third and cornerstone project, what I did, people like pretty things. So I bought a theme, and so I'm using a theme by Tailwind to make my application look beautiful. And I recommend that for your cornerstone project, you bring a lot of your skill by bringing different technologies together, like how to work with a template, how to incorporate Tailwind so your production goes faster, or Bootstrap, how to use something that like Strapi, and then bring everything together. And the most important part here is that you are creating an application that works, that people can use. And the proof of this application is you bring an application to market, which is showing that you're not a dreamer. You're able to take something and make something that looks commercially viable and get it going. Yeah. Nice. Hologram got just registered to Strapi conference. Yeah, if you ever run into anybody at Strapi, you could throw my name around. It's not going to help you much with anything, but you could be like, coding after 30, love Strapi. He keeps talking about you guys so much. I want to smack him sometimes, but that's perfectly fine because look, like people like could make fun of me left and right, but look, I'm getting work done. I'm getting ahead of my application. And you can too, guys, and you can too. I'm not special. I'm not that smart. But what I just want to promote this concept, not Strapi so much, but I want to promote this concept that you need to build stuff from scratch. You need to build applications from scratch. And you need to get into a habit of doing stuff on your own. So what I want to say, guys, is Any questions? Any questions? Anything that we've done? I think it's a like in terms of coding. Let's do some like laid back chit chat for a few minutes. You guys have questions? Oh yeah, coming back to AF Crash. Hi, I'm trying to connect Strapi to Supabase DB, but can't get my data properly. It's some kind of restriction. I don't know how to solve this. Have you worked with Supabase before? It's okay to use it as DB. I have not. I prefer to use, so let me go to Supabase. Supabase. Excuse me. Indigestion. So Firebase alternative. So I've seen it before. I haven't used it. Using Postgres, so I like about that. So I personally have not connected to Supabase, and I'm not sure. Let's see. Let's see, connecting to Supabase. So they might not have something straight up out of the box that supports Supabase directly from Strapi. The great news is that because Strapi is highly customizable, you could write an implementation to help you do that. Maybe that'll be a cool side project for me to try to do. But let's first look at it. Content into blah blah blah. Connection pool. But what is the I don't have time to watch a video, even though I'm doing a video on YouTube. What a hypocrite. Um, let's go to Google. Strapi for and Supabase. Let's see here. I blah 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 blah. Strapi for give it a superpower. Sorry, or do we provide such some functionality file management? Where's the response? So it seems that actually that's a good point here. He's saying, I believe Supabase basically allows you to connect from your front end directly to your database. And so I feel like it's providing similar functionality. So the truth is, actually, exactly like this post says, they're basically doing very similar things. So you either gonna use Supabase or you're going to use Strapi and you're going to host your own database. Let's just Postgres database on DigitalOcean or Heroku. And I think that's kind of like where I am going to lead into uh, based on my very uh, simple understanding of looking at it for 2 minutes. Because I believe that if you just use Supabase, you could just have a front-end application and talk to Supabase directly. You don't need to have anything else or another backend. Because another article I saw here, like let's take a look here, just to what gave me a clue is that people search Supabase versus Strapi, like right. So people search this. Oh, I'm an idiot. I didn't share my screen. Let me go back to this previous article. So this is the one that I was talking about. And what they said, I've been using Strapi in the past. I consider using V4 for a new project. I'm trying to, as a non-developer, understand if I can work with tandem with Supabase and and Strapi, which is kind of like your question, trying to get Supabase to Strapi. And what it says is basically they both serve similar purpose, so you wouldn't work with both of them. You would either use Supabase and connect to it from your front-end application, or you would use Strapi and connect to it from your front-end application. And so another search they have here is Strapi versus Supabase, or at least this is something I tried to Google. Um, but yeah, I think it's let me just yeah, so I think that's how it looked at it. Decide if you want to use Supabase only or decide if you want to use Strapi only, because I think they're provide the same solution, that they allow you to use Postgres database with that service. So Supabase allows you to connect from your front end to your Postgres database. Strapi is basically doing the same thing. And so they're basically two different applications that have similar things. One of the reasons I like Strapi more, if you're working with content managers, they have this amazing UI that makes it very easy for them to add data from their application here easily as editors of content or what have you. But I hope that helped to answer your question. Hey, thanks, you. Nice haircut. The hair, that's what makes everything. The crazy thing is I'm slowly losing hair on top here. So I used to shave my head a lot, because I used to be into MMA and stuff. So you got to look like an MMA fighter with a shaved head. But like I'm starting to lose hair here. Like I'm old and long in the tooth. But that's perfectly nice. Thank you for the compliment. I love it. Oh, sorry. I hope you're still here, but if you're not, it's okay. Yes, all of my posts are posted here on YouTube. So, Jonah, will you post this video? Yes, I will definitely post this video. It's always here, and you could rewatch this. And previous live videos, fantastic. I love it. Yeah. So basically, Supabase solves that problem, and Strapi solves that problem, but you wouldn't use them together. You would pick one. So decide which one you want to use. And again, for me, what I would say is that what I would say, don't worry if you're using Strapi. I love that you guys use Strapi, but find whatever tech you like. If it's Supabase, use Supabase. But the whole point is, for your cornerstone project, you want to create an application which covers authentication and full CRUD functionality, building like a project manager that makes sense to hiring people, right? They're like, oh, I get it. Or a bug tracker. It makes sense. You want to make stuff that's relevant to the jobs that you are applying. Like I saw one portfolio the other day. It was really nice, but some of the projects they had there had a lot to do with anime. And like, I don't know, like, would a hiring manager at a company that has nothing to do with anime look at that and be like, oh, well, why are you showing me this? Like, we don't do anime here. You know what I mean? So I think like building stuff that's like relevant to what people use at work, or stuff that's functionally has a utility, like a e-commerce site or a real estate lookup home site or bug tracker or a Teams project management application. I think doing stuff for your final project as that, it's a pretty good start. And the reason why I say, have a cornerstone project, because you want to have one project that showcases all your best skills and you put some effort and time into it that didn't take you like a week to build, but maybe took you a month of like full-time work to build, which does, like amazing stuff. And you're like so proud of it. And when people look at it, like and I'll give you an example why this is important. So I just applied to a job like a month ago, and they literally asked me to build an application that I had to build from scratch. And then I had to talk about it in the closing interview. And if I didn't practice building application from scratch, that homework assignment would have been hard. It would have been really difficult. And also, this is one of the reasons I do these live streams, because it allows me to talk about my code to you guys, regardless if I make mistakes or not. It's a good practice of me talking and reviewing the code that I wrote with you guys, which is helping me to learn how to comfortably talk about my code. So if I were to give you two advices today, practice building projects from scratch yourself. And number two, even if you don't post those things on YouTube or a blog, learn to make an explainer video, or stand in front of the mirror and go over your code and talk about your code. Practice building the stuff, and then practice talking about your application and answering questions about it, because those two will bring your understanding of building and explaining things together. And those are two things they expect you to do at work. So that's my pro tip. And so if nobody has any final questions about anything, any questions? No questions. If you guys didn't smash the like button, smash the like button. But if you guys don't have any questions, where can you find me? Here on YouTube. That's the best place. I'm on Twitter for whatever reason, I don't know. But I hope you guys stay safe. I hope you guys, let me see any new comments before I go. I think I saw a comment. And Luke, thank you. Luke says, congratulations on your new job. Thank you very much. Don't tell anybody where the job is yet. It's a secret. I mean, I guess you could tell people, it doesn't matter. But like, yeah, I'm really excited. I'm so excited. So ecstatic. Very happy at I will talk, once I start my job, like I'll talk about the process of interviewing. And a while ago, I stopped doing the Saturday stream about how to get hired and why soft skills are important. But I knew it, how important soft skills are, but I still underestimate how important those skills are. And let me tell you, working on soft skills, being able to present yourself, being able to talk about yourself well is huge. Look, I got one dislike. I love it. But the point, oh my God, they're playing with my mind again. Like again. But listen, the truth is, you don't have to like this. I like, because there's so many people on YouTube. You don't even have to follow my channel. There's so many people that you could learn from. Here's why I do this. Number one, I feel like when you live in this world, it's important to do something positive that's outside of yourself. So I'd like to give back to the community, because for me, switching careers, going from teaching MMA, mixed martial arts, and punching people in the face and breaking arms, I went and switched into web development, right? And I made a lot of mistakes on my way, and I definitely struggled so much that I totally feel the pain of what it's like to try to switch career, learn something new. And I know there's a lot of hype online where people are giving advice maybe with best intention, but it's not the right advice. And so I'm not telling you guys should do what I do, but I'm telling you that the reason I am where I am today is because of the steps I took and the steps that work for me. So if any one of you gets even a millimeter of benefit and helps them to get hired and get the job, even if you don't tell me that it was using my tips, I don't care. Like, I just want you guys to have someone on YouTube that's telling you exactly how it is and not trying to tell you buy my courses. So I made a decision, by the way, guys, I'm never going to sell courses on Udemy or what have you. I much rather have a community where I could share and talk about stuff. And if I do some paid project, it's going to be something where it's combination of like helping you guys get your job and tell you, like, I don't even think I'm ever going to have courses ever, because there's already too many courses out there. But the point is, like, I don't want to have a YouTube channel. Maybe I'll have merch, because I won't feel guilty selling merch. But like, I want to make sure that I never tell you stuff because I have another motive to tell you things and maybe embellish certain things because I am trying to sell you something. If anything, I want to continue to give you real advice to get hired. And whenever I have a course, don't buy it because, like, you know, like, whatever, just buy it because you want to buy it. Whatever, who cares? I'm too lazy to make courses anyway, so don't worry about it. But the point is, like, I don't want my YouTube journey be in the context of trying to sell you something, sell your dreams, sell your product. If I do have a product, like, I don't want it to be the main focus of how I make money, because I make money as a developer. I just got a new job because my goal is to continue to be a better developer at the company that I work for and share my experience to help you guys get hired. So, like, I don't know how long this is going to last. Maybe I'll sell out and become a capitalist at some point. But the point that I'm saying is that I don't feel any reason to not tell you the reality of my journey, because time is so precious. Like, I'll tell you this story, and I'm not making this to cry about it, but life is short. We all suffer through stuff. We all have difficulties. But my stepfather, who took care of me for a big part of my life, like I respected him. He was a hardworking man, but I never told him I love you ever because he was not my real father. He was my stepfather, even though I did not understand when I was younger that he was working really hard, providing roof over my head, watching out for me, giving me everything I need to be able to succeed. And then he got cancer and passed away. And so I never, ever got a chance to tell him really how I felt about him. So he died not knowing, did I respect him? Did I appreciate what he did to him? Did I love him? Which I did, all those things. And so the reason why I tell this story is because life is, especially with the stuff that's going on in the world, life is like really, really short. So for me, I do not, as a human being, have any reason to talk about stuff that's going to waste your time because it's fluff, because it's irrelevant, and because it's not going to help you, because I would just rather spend the time with my family. And so the content that I present on YouTube is because, like, man, like I'm making the reason why I did this video is because I'm making this content for me like 10 years ago. Like I wish I had someone like me talking about this stuff right now so I could learn those lessons, because I would have got to where I'm going much faster. If I have a son, like I want to have a history of these videos. If he decides to go into coding, he won't make the same goddamn mistakes I made. I have a daughter, but she doesn't want to do coding. But that's besides the point. I'm not going to force her to do what she doesn't like. And that's the whole reason. Like, I just want to make sure that I'm giving you valid advice, actionable advice, that after you take it, you're like, oh, wow, that was actually good. Like, and by putting a lot of value to you guys, I don't have to worry about getting value back from you guys. I know if you want to, you will support me. I don't have to try to sell stuff by lying to you, or by saying, oh no, take my course and in 3 months you're going to make $1 billion. Or look at my amazing story, how I went from flipping chicken to working at Google. Like, I have a story. Yeah, I went from an MMA fighter to being a developer, not at Google, but it took me 5 freaking years of hard work and failure to get there. So I'm not going to try to tell you a cool story so you guys can be like, oh, Paul's cool. Wow. Like, let me, like, so whatever he says must be true. No, I'm just going to tell you the truth. And then let's look at the amazing comments here. And Tammy, really appreciate you. I appreciate everybody here, by the way. Hi, Paul. You're my inspiration, mate. I'm 37 here, and it's been 6 months since I started learning to code. I'm now able to make fully functional and dynamic weather app, calculator quiz app, etc. Keep it up, Tan. That's amazing. I mean, keep at it. Like, I talked to this girl, Katya. She started with me when I had 100 subscribers on my channel, and I still slowly growing, whatever. But I watched her go from a span of a year and a half that she knew me, from going from being a paralegal. And I actually think she has a law degree, but she just didn't want to go into that field because they don't treat, like, whatever the story was. Like, I don't want to share it here. It's personal stuff. But I watched her make the journey, listening to some of the recommendations that I was doing massive amount of work, and going from a year and a half to getting hired. And I recently caught up with her. She's been working at her company for past 7 months as a developer. It literally changed her life. And listen, if I could help other people to do that, it's amazing. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever do courses. Ever do courses. I will do something where I combine strategies of type of projects to build and give some sort of community feedback in a private community, kind of like we have that community now. One day, maybe it'll be some paid thing, whatever. Right now, just all in, it's an idea. It's pre-alpha. Or like, I just want to continue giving, like, coaching people on making sure that they are doing the right things, for free online, because, like, I just want to do it. And if someone wants to pay me money, you could just, I'll set up a buy me coffee account, and you could buy me 1,000 coffees or something. But, but in terms of this advice, I want it to be available for free online, because I want to make sure that I want to make it available. Like, I don't want to hide behind a paywall. I want to make sure that all my experience I share with you for free. And, if people do want to support me monetarily, like, obviously have something available for them. But at the same time, like, you don't have to do that. You can just watch my YouTube. That's fine. And thanks for reading my. No, I appreciate you, my man, for being here. Like, nice, fantastic. That was a great course I did. I wanted to talk to that guy. He was excited, but then eventually he just decided not to want to talk to me. Whatever. Eli here, bro. I just signed the developer's job just now. Fantastic. Your YT content really helps me on my journey. I've been applying for about 7 months and off due to frequent duties to add to my portfolio. That's fantastic. Yeah, this is the stuff that I want to hear. And so, like, that I'm here to share my journey. Most of my advice, like all of it's going to be free online. And then I may eventually do some paid stuff, maybe merch, maybe some sort of community. It's not going to be that expensive. Not because, like, and the way I look at it, if there's somebody who's able to and they want to give back to my community by buying or joining my community and paying a couple of bucks here, you guys will do it. But at the same time, I'm not going to hold that against you if you don't. I'm still going to make same type of content available on YouTube. Man, you're a true champ. Have we all been there? And sometimes that's what we have to do. We have to work hard, and that's just the reality of life. The realities, like, this is why I had a, like, not an argument with my fiance. We were jokingly talking about, and she's like, I wish I just win the lotto. Like, then I could be lazy and not do anything. I got so upset. She was kidding, of course. Like she was kidding, but but the reason I said that is because, look, I hate where people talk about, oh, getting to coding is easy. I did it in 2 weeks. I did it. I go, like, shut up. Like, no, you didn't. Like, you're trying. There's an agenda behind it. The reality is that all things that pay high level of money for work, they require skill that is hard to come by. It takes practice. It takes work. And so anybody that says to you how easy it was, or this, and that, and make 3,000 billion, jillion, trillion dollars, they're off the rocker. It takes a lot of hard work and it takes a lot of effort. And I don't want to lie about it to you, because I don't want anybody after 3 months to be like, Jesus, I'm still unemployed. 7 months into giving up, oh man, I can't find anybody to take a chance on me. Like, what's going on? What's going on? It takes time, it takes work, and it takes commitment. So, yeah. And listen, I've already being on YouTube for this amount of time that I've been, and talking to people. I have many people reaching out to me being like, hey, Paul, like, I watched your videos. A lot of your content kept motivating me to not give up and keep going through it. And people telling me now, look, I got hired. I got this, I got that, like, and I'm like, wow, these people are getting hired faster than it took me to get hired. And so I know it's possible. Just keep realistic expectations, keep working hard. Don't think that like, a lot of people think, they think it's way easier to get into this field than it really is, even though they think it's hard. And so whenever they don't meet their goal, they quit. But the reality is, like, you didn't, like, meet your goal, like, it's because you didn't do it long enough. That's why you didn't hit your goal. Like, you will hit your goal eventually. It just takes time. Some people take a year, 2 years. It took me almost 5 years. You know what I mean? Most people would have quit who would do something for 5 years before getting hired? Like, that's crazy. But I just really believe this is something that I wanted to do, and I used every possible strategy that I can to get here. And honestly, like, if I can do it, you guys can do it. And I just want to say, I really appreciate all of your support, because at the end of the day, like, we're all human beings. We all have so much stuff that we carry on our day-to-day lives. We all growing up in different circumstances. Certain people have circumstances that are better than others. But the truth is, we're all human beings. We all have emotions. We don't want to, like, we don't like when people tell us mean comments. We don't like when we have to deal with loss. We don't like it when we have to deal with rejection. All those things are hard. We're already dealing with so much stuff that I just want to have a positive place for people. Just do the work, know that it's hard, and keep going for it. And Q, why did it take you 5 years, Paul? So, number one, like, I was a wild person, not like super wild, but I wouldn't always make the best decisions in life. So I would quit a lot because I thought there was an easier way to get something done. I was wrong. The second reason is that when I first started to learn to code, I didn't really have a path. I didn't know what I really needed to know. And I watched all these different YouTubers, and people be like, no, you need to learn Ruby. No, you need to learn C++. No, Java is the way. No, like PHP and WordPress. And so I tried to go into different ways. And then when like I tried to do one way and didn't work, I was like, oh, this is a wrong way. It's a bad way. Let me try another way. And so I literally would go back and almost start from scratch, not realizing that if I only picked one path, and this is at the end of the day what I did, I picked JavaScript and React, and I said to myself, I'm going to only do JavaScript and React, either if it kills me or I get hired. And so one of the reasons was not being super committed to my work and making excuses and saying, oh, it's because my mom don't love me, or oh, it's because this happened to me, oh, it's because my cat farted in my face and I can't see straight when I look at the code, right? There's no excuses, right? And so I want to show you this right now, guys, because this is like very important. And I've showed this bajillion times. I showed this bajillion times. One second, guys. 1 second. I'm looking for my GitHub. And if I was to say, what's the lesson? Know what you need to do and do the work to require to achieve those steps, and say no to everything else, because you can't do everything. So here's my GitHub. Let me bring it on the screen here. And I want to put this in perspective, and this will be the final thing that I'll end the show with. So for the few of you that are still here, let this be a very good lesson for everybody. So look at my GitHub here. I started it in 2013. So in 2013, I was 33 years old. I'm turning 42 this year. So I was 33 years old. Let me move this out here. So I started 2013. If I applied the strategy that I'm talking about and knew not to make the mistakes that I made, I would have, by 2015, definitely would have gotten hired, and I could have been making more and more income as I went through the years. But 2013, oops, let me go here. In 2013, nothing, no commits, no nothing. I'm not putting any effort. I'm not sticking to the ground. I'm not putting in the work that is required. 2014, I just wishfully watching YouTube channels, not doing any work, hoping one day, maybe someday, I will get hired or something happen. 2015, sadly, nothing. Nothing. Still getting in trouble, still doing stupid stuff. I had a GitHub. I had the intention of getting hired and making a career switch in 2013. 2016, oh, whoop-de-doo. Nothing. Wasted years. 2017, okay, maybe like, let's see, 2 contributions. Working on some assignment, some website from probably Udemy course. But then the rest of the months, I quit. I didn't do nothing. I sat, made excuses. You could make excuses for 4 years. And then I realized something. I realized that the only way to get to where I want to go is to do the work and not listen to anybody else and have a path, have a direction. 2019, I kept working through. I kept doing it. 2020, moving forward, going. 2021, 2022, still doing fantastic. But it was until I decided to pick a path, commit to one thing, stay committed, continue on, and not say no. Half the 90% of the advice on YouTube, don't even listen to it. It's not going to get you hired. Made that decision. Yes, I'm on YouTube giving advice, but I'm not saying like you have to listen to me, but I'm just the messenger of my story. And so 2013, I was 33. I didn't get hired until like 2019. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years of not being on track, wasting time, thinking that the answer was on YouTube. The answer was with me doing the work. That was the fact. The answer was of me doing the work and getting the stuff that people want you to have. I could have completed like 2 different degrees at this point. You know what I'm saying? And so let this be a lesson that I could have gotten hired in 2015 if I stopped making excuses. But I didn't give up. I kept going. Some people say, it's a sign of insanity doing the same thing over and over again. But I knew that one day something would happen. I knew I would succeed. And here I am. And so the reason I share that with you guys is because you need to do the work. It's all on you. I know everybody works hard. I know everybody's trying, but the best thing you could do is to just say, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. If it's meant to be, it's up to me to do what it takes. And that's why I work full time. That's why I have a contract role. That's why I'm still on YouTube. I don't get paid for YouTube, and it takes away from my time of doing other things, but I love it. I love being on YouTube. I love sharing what I do. And so this is like amazing. And the point that I'm saying is that you just got to stop making excuses. I'm not saying you make excuses, but I'm not saying, when I say you guys, I'm talking about me. I had to basically confront myself and understand that I was not doing the work that was really required. I was doing subpar stuff, expecting to get the results that I wasn't qualified for. So I think a lot of people underestimate the work that it takes to get the first job. And when they don't get it, they act surprised, but it's really, really hard. I'm not going to lie to you. And most people quit not because they can't learn to code or they can't understand how to solve problems or they can't figure this out. They quit because they think the thing that should take them a long time to get should take them less time. Like if you think like, oh, it's 3 months, and if I don't get some 3 months, I know someone who went to boot camp, went from start of a boot camp to 2 years to getting a job. Sometimes that's a fact. And so that's what I want to leave on tonight. And if you missed this stream or jumping in late, I love you guys. And I always have these streams recorded, so you could always rewatch it. And the reason when people hear me talk, you're so passionate about it, it's because it means a lot to me, because I wasted so much time making mistakes that if I could prevent somebody else from doing that, that's more time with your family. It's more time with your friends. It's more time doing things that you need to do rather than spinning in a circle and not going anywhere. So one advice I heard, and I don't know if it's applicable here, but I'm going to say this last final thing. One time I had so much stuff going on. I had fires burning in my personal life. I was trying to go to school, but then I dropped out. And then I had this business endeavor idea, and I was running circles and circles and circles, and I couldn't figure anything out. So I had this one guy come up to me, and he goes Paul, you're doing a lot of busy work that seems like the right work that you need to do to get yourself out of this rut. But it's just work, busy work that's not really going anywhere. Stop. Don't do anything until you have a clear path in your mind of what you want to do and what steps you have to take. Not a clear path. You write it down and you just go down the list doing those things and crossing them out as you go along to get hired to your job. Then don't do anything, because otherwise you'll still keep running, chasing your own tail. And so what I say to people, a lot of times we do these tutorials, we watch YouTube, we start a little project, then we stop. We look like we're doing work, but it's not getting us anywhere. So you need to do connected, interrelated work and steps that are getting you closer to your goal. And it took me, goddamn, 5 years, and I'm still trying to figure this out. And I'm hoping that it won't take you that long. You know what I'm saying? So I'm hoping that you guys will do it way faster than I have. So with that being said, I love all of you guys. No matter where you are, I hope you are healthy. You are doing well with your family, things in life. however they may be, you're hanging in there, you're doing the best that you can, and you're just moving one foot after other, and you're just moving forward. Because at the end of the day, regardless of our situation, we could either give up or we could continue to go forward. And regardless, I want to believe that moving forward is still a better option, because if you give up, you know where that leads. But if you keep moving forward, step after the other, maybe you fail and maybe eventually you succeed, but at least you have a purpose and you know where to go. So, with that being said, I love all of you guys. I hope you guys have a good night. I'm going to try to do some work right now. And I really appreciate, first of all, before you go, I just want to say, I really appreciate all of you guys in the community. You guys have no idea how, to me, it's amazing to be part of your community and have such productive conversations and be able to talk to you guys, because to me it really shows, like, as a human race, we might be okay, we might make it. There's a lot of great positive people, and so one thing that I try to do is to just associate myself with the most possible positive people that I can, because life is already hard. Why be friends or have negative people in your community? Because life is already hard. So I really appreciate your positivity. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for all you are doing. I really appreciate you guys. I just looked at some comments. Alex, I don't take cold showers anymore. I take hot baths. That's what I do. Hot bath is what my answer to a cold shower is. And 10, you're going to get there. You're going to get there. And you're going to get there way before me. Just like, you could always reach out to me on LinkedIn, like, or email me at codingafter30@gmail.com, or on Twitter. Like, I'm terrible at social media, but eventually I'll get back to you guys. But if you guys serious about doing, of course you guys are serious doing what it takes, just know that it takes serious effort and there's going to be a lot of setbacks, and it's normal. Just keep at it, keep moving forward, and you guys are going to get there. Just don't give up. I'm probably going to work tonight until like 2 a.m., then sleep a little bit, then wake up at 8:30 and work a little bit more. Uh, yeah, I appreciate it, Q. It's funny because there's only 11 people watching. So, like, I know they probably already liked the video. But yeah, like, if definitely do what Q says. Hit the like button out of respect. Out of respect. Uh, 3:57 a.m. here, and once you end the session, I will get back to my site. And my goodness, and I appreciate it, bro. I appreciate all you guys. Yeah, you're probably close to Alex. Maybe, at least in the same time zone. Alex, is it the same time where you at? Um, Paris, yeah, nice. Actually, 10, like, Strapi is their headquarters in Paris. They actually started by a bunch of that's where they start at, in Paris, which is kind of funny. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, guys, love you guys so much. Thanks for everything. And I'll see you guys on Saturday live stream, where we talk about soft skills, which are very important. Being like, for some reason, like, if people like you, they tend to give you more leniency, even though a lot of people try to say, like, hey, I don't judge people if I like him or not. But that's not everybody, to some way reason, judge people. Like, there's a guy, I make a joke, who's also on YouTube. I just don't like him. And he's probably like a really nice guy. But whatever he says, I'm like, yeah, it's BS. And that's like kind of blatantly my own, like, oh, like, whatever. You don't like him, but irrationally probably. But the point is, there's on Saturdays we talk about skills, we talk about LinkedIn, we talk about resume, we talk about how to promote yourself to get awareness and visibility, what you really need to do to increase your chances of getting hired, what things you need to do. Saturday 9 p.m. Eastern time, and then on Tuesday it's all about coding and chatting with you guys. So, and at some point we're gonna come back and doing some live streams with Coding Addict, which we'll find out when those are. Again, probably the same time. But with that being said, love you guys so much. Have a good night, good day, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. And I am out. By the way, if you guys want to support this channel, go binge watch all my YouTube content, like all the videos, all the content. Share it, smash it. I'm not saying you guys have to, but if you wanted to. With that being said, I love all you guys. Have a good night. Bye.